Now, you've heard me talk about the Farm to Table Brunch. This is an event coming on the 17th on Sunday. This is an event, it's a benefit. Besides being just what sounds like a ridiculously delicious day, it's also a wonderful benefit for the 2020 Project. Here with me now is Joy Burkhard, who's the Executive Director of the 2020 Project. Joy, how are you?
I'm great, T. Good to be back.
Okay, now I finally get to meet some other people and to talk a little bit more about the 2020 Project. You have some guests with you. Tell me who they are.
I do. Diana Barnes, Dr. Diana Lynn Barnes, is a psychotherapist in private practice. She specializes in women's reproductive mental health. She's also an author and on the training faculty of the 2020 Mom Project. And also with me is Stephanie Wyan. She's a writer and producer and also a survivor of postpartum depression and psychosis, which we'll get to hear a little bit about today.
Now, having a baby is in and of itself a really big, huge, life-changing, unlike really almost anything else we do as human beings. You know, for parents, it's really tough. But then there are things that bring an even bigger burden with that, because it's, you know, it should be a joyful time, but I remember saying it wasn't all rocking chairs and the pictures I'd seen, you know, in the storybooks. It was hard work, and it was really much tougher than anyone had led me to believe. And the idea that in this huge physical undertaking we've just had, or just bringing a baby home is difficult. I have some questions about anxiety. Tell me a little bit about that. Just the anxiety that comes with postpartum.
Yeah. Well, I think I can speak to that. I think there's a little bit of a misconception, because we think of postpartum depression as meaning you are depressed. And actually, the most common way in which we see women experiencing symptoms is with this overwhelming anxiety. So when we're talking about anxiety, it actually has physical symptoms associated with it. So women may be experiencing heart palpitations, butterflies times 100, backaches, headaches, nausea, vomiting, stomach problems.
And any one of those is debilitating at a time.
Absolutely.
Just even slightly, you know, when you come off of a roller coaster or a bad taxi ride, it's like you don't function well. To have that, and then to have someone that you're taking care of, and maybe even the rest of the household, it's got to be just debilitating.
Absolutely. You know, it's interesting, because at a time in a woman's life when she's trying to hang on for dear life, she's also being asked to be responsible for the survival of another human being. And that's a really tall order.
Now, in talking about anxiety and depression, what exactly is psychosis? I've seen that and heard that word thrown around, you know, here and there, but tell me a little more about what that is.
Well, when we talk about psychosis, first of all, I just want to make the point that it's not severe postpartum depression. It falls under a completely different category of illness. It falls under the umbrella of perinatal illnesses, those mood disorders that happen during pregnancy and the postpartum period, but it's its own separate category of illness. And basically what it means is that you have broken with the real world, so that your thought processes don't look anymore like yours or mine, or Joy's or Stephanie's today. It's characterized by things like delusions. We call it delusions, meaning you have beliefs about things that aren't true. Very often these beliefs have kind of a paranoid feature to them, suspicion. There is a lot of anxiety and agitation, restlessness in postpartum psychosis. Sometimes in severe cases of psychosis, the severest of the severe, women may hear voices, and sometimes those voices are commanding them. Often the voices are very critical, they're very demeaning, and they really attack the heart of a woman's experience of becoming a mother.
And then as a mother, what was your experience with that?
I experienced it after the birth of my third baby. I think it's really important to note as well, though, that Diana and I were talking about this a little bit before we came in, that I think for a lot of women, this is the case where it wasn't just an isolated incident. In retrospect, know I definitely had postpartum depression and anxiety with my previous 2 births, and even after a miscarriage that I had.
Now, were you hard on yourself? Did you say, "Oh, I should get over this"? I mean, how were you feeling when you had it the first 2 times? I know in retrospect you knew what it was, but at the time with the other 2 births, were you just, "Oh, I should be able to get through this. I should be able to. Why can't I?" What was that
Sure.
What was that thought process like?
Well, with my first birth, there was a special difficulty because first of all, I had a very long labor. I labored in the hospital for about 30 hours. And then when my daughter was delivered, she had severe meconium aspiration. So when they cut the cord, she couldn't breathe. There was meconium in the air sacs. So she was taken from me immediately and stayed in the NICU just under 3 weeks in an induced coma to hyperventilate her to get the toxins out.
Wow.
So I had my own birth wounds because when they saw that she was in trouble, they had to get her out fast. And then here's this baby in a little box, and you're leaving the hospital without a baby. And no one ever said to me, "Hey, you might have a hard time. This is very traumatic." And then I had instructions to keep her inside because I was bringing her home as flu season was beginning. Oh. So I was a new mom away from family at home with this newborn that absolutely terrified me. So I had all kinds of things going through my head. I was frightened of her. I loved her, but I was afraid of breaking her, and I felt this sense of guilt that somehow something I had done had caused the problem, and no assurances from any medical doctors would take away that maternal guilt, which I think is probably pretty normal as mothers. We want to do everything we can to protect our children.
And so here you are mentally, physically, emotionally, completely drained.
Yes.
But it's
Yes.
like, "Oh, but you're a new mom." Like,
Yes.
move
And she
on,
had
pick it up.
She'd been on a feeding tube, so anytime I came at her with a bottle, anything, she was like, "Whoa!" And so she had it was really hard. And
So now we have about a minute left before we take a little bit of a break. Tell me, you went through another birth, and then it wasn't until the 3rd time is a charm where you said, something's not quite right.
well, literally.
Or did someone step in and help you?
Well, it was kind of it really truly was a conundrum. I had the 2 births, and then I had a very early miscarriage and had a really severe depression after that, and then I was done with having kids. But then I wasn't. So with my 3rd baby, really, truly, I think my PMADs built upon one another. I'm very strong-willed. I'm a very strong person, and I was raised to be self-reliant. It's not easy to ask for help, but there was such a high level of stress around that 3rd birth. There were a lot of extra circumstances in my life, and that's when the break happened with reality.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the Farm to Table brunch. Again, you can look at the website, farm-to-table-brunch.com, and follow along with us what this event is for, benefiting the 2020 Mom Project. We will be back in just a moment to chat with these ladies. And if you would like, again, that website is farm-to-table-brunch.com. But with me right now, I have Joy Burkhard, Dr. Diana Barnes, and Stephanie. How do you pronounce your name? Wyand?
Wyand, long I, yes.
Long Y. Okay,
Yes.
Stephanie Wyand. And we were talking before the break about your postpartum depression and how by the time you had your 3rd child, you were pretty much dialed into something wasn't right. Where did you go to seek help, and what did you do with that process?
Well, for me, what it began with was I was very, very agitated. I was very angry with my husband, and I literally felt myself slipping. But I called the OB, and he said it was out of his hands. We made a number of phone calls, and really everyone pretty much said it's out of our hands. For me, I remember the feeling of, oh my God, I had these thoughts going through my head. I didn't hear voices. It wasn't a situation where I felt I was being directed to perform dark acts or anything like that. It was mostly that I felt kind of a heightened sense of, like I was psychic, that I had a connection to the Holy Spirit, that that suddenly I could see lots of coincidences and truths all around me, and I had a number of really uncharacteristic confrontations with people where I just was like, it's my job to be as honest as possible, and I said some really bluntly awful things. And it got to the point where it was happening more and more, and I finally ended up in the psychiatric wing of a hospital in LA, and that was a very difficult experience because they were just not equipped to handle a woman in the unit with general population who had just had a baby.
Now, Joy, tell me, how did the farm to table brunch come? I always want to say farm-to-table-brunch come along. How did the farm to table brunch come about, and what led you to be part of the 2020 Mom Project?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So, we have been focusing a while on the things that Stephanie just talked about, and I'll first start with the last question that you asked about is how did I come to this work and start the 2020 Mom Project. And I also had undiagnosed mild depression, I think, after the birth of my first child, who also aspirated meconium and was in the NICU and couldn't sleep a wink in the hospital, and also was involved in work with the Junior League. The Junior League in California also sponsored a piece of legislation at the time, and they called for the formation of a statewide task force to address maternal mental health care. And there was no money in the state at the time to have the state form this task force, so instead the legislature encouraged us to form this task force, and it led to the formation of the nonprofit 2020 Mom. And so we've really been getting our arms around why are women falling through the cracks, like Stephanie shared. Why aren't OBGYNs thinking this is something they can help with, and have been addressing those opportunities through our 2020 Mom Accreditation Project. And then this year is our first farm to table brunch here in the community. And we're really interested in health and promotion of health and well-being. And so what better opportunity than to focus on farm to table, eating fresh, whole foods, bringing moms and families together to celebrate and learn a little bit more about this important event.
Okay, now, I think what's amazing about this brunch, in addition to the fact that it's for an incredible cause, you have brought together a really lovely opportunity for people. I've said to you over and over again, I'm personally grateful, even though my kids are 18 and 22, that you offer the Kids' Day Out for the parents, because I remember that being such an incredible burden when I wanted to go and do something. Do I get a babysitter? What am I going to... And there was guilt that came with it and all of these other things. And you've made a really lovely opportunity for the kids to get out and do something while mom and dad come to this really important benefit. Plus, you also have some of the most delicious foods. You have some special chefs and vendors who are bringing fruits and vegetables. Tell me a little bit about the actual brunch.
Okay, great. Yes, we have a lovely day planned at the Valencia Country Club. It's outdoors. If you haven't ever been there, it's a private club, so most of us haven't. But it is just this beautiful setting outdoors on the lawn underneath twinkle lights. Will be there during the day, but there'll be lanterns, and it's just going to be a beautiful setting. And we also have a great lineup of food, but we're also proud that we have two speakers, John and Molly Chester, who've been featured on Oprah's OWN network, who are coming to talk about the farm to table movement, what it means, farm to table, what they're working on their farm. It's Apricot Lane Farms, which is in Moore Park, just about 30 minutes from here. They've got some incredible films on their website as well, if you haven't checked them out, or their Facebook page, and they'll talk a little bit about the magic that they find at the farm, their animals and the animals, the friendships between the animals, some incredible stories. There's a pig named Emma who has a best friend who's a rooster named Greasy, and they'll tell us about that. Just some beautiful things that are happening. And then the best part is that they've also just had a baby this year, and luckily Molly didn't suffer from a maternal mental health disorder, or a PMAD, we call them, a perinatal anxiety and mood disorder. But she did have a rough transition, just like most of us do. And she'll talk a little bit about her transition, what was hard for her, and some ideas that she has about how we can support each other as mothers.
Okay, Okay, again, a wonderful opportunity to come together for the 2020 project. Also, I have to read this out loud. It says you can experience the taste of organic local farm fresh fare and tasty brunch standby. So this is what you're in for if you buy a ticket now. Garden tomato composite salads, rosemary infused cottage potatoes, free ranch egg omelets made to order, applewood smoked bacon, organic greens, mimosas, Bloody Marys, and so much more. AM 1220, KHTS, hometownstation.com. I've been talking with Dr. Diana Barnes, Stephanie Wyand, and Joy Burkhard here talking about the Farm to Table Brunch. This is an event taking place Sunday, May 17th, 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. at the beautiful Valencia Country Club. You get to enjoy farm fresh brunch standards and really delicious things. Live speakers, live entertainment, and a boutique silent auction. You can get your tickets today. Do it now. farm-to-table-brunch.com. And I want to talk to Dr. Barnes. You know, we've talked about how this is something that impacts a certain population, up to 20% of expecting new moms. But just having a baby is tough. And can we talk a little bit about that?
Well, you know, the numbers are high. 800,000 to 1 million women every year are going to suffer from some form of postpartum depression. And there's such a mythology in our culture about motherhood that I think it really does women a disservice. We expect women to do things that are the impossible. And so when they come, you know, kind of face to face with the discrepancies between what they've been told and how it really is, that in and of itself is enough to leave a woman vulnerable to depression. And you know, I learn so much from the patients that I see in my own private practice. They give me pearls of wisdom. And I can remember some time ago a mom saying to me, you know what, becoming a mom is like joining a sorority with the worst hazing ritual ever. And I think that's how it feels. If moms are being truthful, that's how it feels. And what we tell moms is this is the happiest time in your life, and it is. But that doesn't mean that it's not stressful. It doesn't mean that it's not worrisome. It doesn't mean that it isn't the most overwhelming thing and the most profound thing you've ever gone through in your life.
But other moms are tough on other moms.
Yeah.
And I think some of that is everybody has their own way of doing things, or their way is the better way. But it is very difficult. It's tough enough just to bring that little person home to be responsible for, and then all of the rest that comes with it. I'm not surprised, honestly, that number is not a lot higher.
There's so much judgment. I mean, moms are judging other moms are judging themselves, family members are judging the moms and the other moms, and so much judgment. And, you know, if you think about it, where else in life do you know that you go into an experience as one person and come out as two?
There's a joke in there somewhere, but I just can't pull it out. But no, there really isn't. There really isn't. And it is the most wonderful time of life. It's the most difficult time of life, and it does change us. Every mom I've ever met, by a certain point, she realizes how much it has shaped her character, how much it has shaped her opinions, how much it has colored her view of the world. And I can't believe I'm the same person I was. And it's Stephanie, your experience. How old are your kids now?
Oh, I've got a range. My oldest, my NICU baby, is 14 and a half in high school. I've got an 11-and-a-half-year-old fifth grader. And then I've got my little one, 5.5, who's a pre-K. He'll be going into kindergarten in the fall. So
Congratulations
Little
on
busy.
that. Congratulations.
Thank
and
you.
Joy, you in addition to kids, the Farm to Table Brunch is your other baby, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. The
Was
brunch.
that hard to birth?
Oh my goodness! For those that have planned and organized fundraisers, you know how much work it goes into the planning. We've got a great volunteer crew, and we're looking forward to Sunday. We're going to have an amazing day. We'll be celebrating when it's over with our own champagne and not just mimosas that day. But yes, it's like birthing another baby, indeed.
All right, wonderful. Ladies, thank you for being here. Again, I invite you to visit farm-to-table-brunch.com to learn more about the event, learn more about the 2020 Mom Project, and to get your tickets, because this is going to be a really beautiful day for a really beautiful cause. Thank you so much for being here.
thank you.
Thank you.